Hey guys, welcome back. So for this one, I wanted to get into the new X-Men 97 series, written by Steve Fox, with it being the prequel to the new Disney Plus show, because I was checking this out myself to see the story that connects the original series to the new one, so I just figured, why not do a video? And if you guys like it, we'll keep going. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications, so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so going into this, we pick up not long after the end of the original X-Men animated series show, after Xavier's death, where the first thing we see is the X-Men confronting Magneto in Times Square. And it's revealed to us rather quickly that this is just a simulation in the Danger Room, because things go off the rail as soon as Wolverine breaks formation, attacking Magneto early, so Storm then has to break his fall, which pulls her out of formation, when she was supposed to be covering the team from above. So again, it's all a mess. So this then causes Jean to end the Danger Room simulation before anyone gets hurt, and right after this we see that Wolverine's not really feeling the changes that Scott's made since the professor's been gone, with Scott cranking up their training and being more controlling, as Wolverine would say, rather than being a leader. So of course, in response, Scott more or less tells Logan that his problem is that he doesn't have control, because at any moment he'll just go into a berserker rage instead of working as a part of the team. But in addition to this, we already know that there's the whole Jean element laying underneath the conflict between these two anytime they brush shoulders. So Storm just breaks this up, and following this, Beast pops up on the holovid, telling the team that there's something they've got to come see right away. So they all head over, and Beast shows them a news broadcast reporting that the Friends of Humanity have just taken Dazzler in what's believed to have been an attempt to disrupt the Charles Xavier Memorial Concert that she was supposed to perform at later that evening. So Beast ends up using the news footage to narrow down the location to find out where the Friends of Humanity took Dazzler. So the team gets ready to head out. And for a moment here, Jubilee's like, hey, if it's a short flight, can I pilot the jet this time? And Wolverine's like, my healing factor's good, but it ain't that good. And Jubilee's more or less like, come on, I have a learner's permit. Which on one hand, it's like, yeah, okay, that's good to know, but it's not helping her case here in the slightest. But right before they leave, Jean tells Scott and the others that she's just gonna stay here at the mansion because she still has an upset stomach. And that's just one of those things right there where it's like, hey, if you know, you know. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit, because next, as Storm leaves to head out with the others, Beast tells them that he's going to stay at the mansion too, because he's making good progress on fixing Bishop's time travel device. However, fortunately, Gambit and Rogue are already nearby their destination, because right now the two of them are at the mall, where Gambit is helping Rogue pick out an outfit to wear to the concert tonight. And for a moment she expresses how it's a bit of a downer that she has to cover up everything all the time, so Gambit suggests that she tries out a look that we may or may not see come back in this series, who knows. But in the middle of this, they get a message from Storm, who tells them that the Friends of Humanity have taken Dazzler, and they're nearby. But over at the location where Dazzler is being held, Cyclops is telling the others how they're gonna head in with the element of surprise, but that idea just goes right out the window. Cause as soon as Rogue and Gambit get there, they're immediately taking the fight to the Friends of Humanity, leaving Cyclops and the others no choice but to go in after them. So of course, for a moment here we get into the fight scene with a ton of one-liners, but to me the best one is where Bishop tells Jubilee how in the future they don't even remember these guys. Because I just imagine if any of them heard that, it would hurt more than anything else in this whole fight. But while things are popping off, Jubilee finds where Dazzler is being held. So she heads over there, and she uses a few moves that Logan taught her to take these guys down and get Dazzler free, just so she could tell Dazzler how much of a fan she is. And right after that, Dazzler tells the team, thanks for the save. So Scott's just like, it's what we do, Dazzler. So right here she tells Scott, you never did come back to that bar, hero boy, missed your chance before I hit the big time. Which really is just a nice callback to the episode where Scott saved her from Donald Pierce back in season 3 episode 14 when the Dark Phoenix saga started popping off. Cause in that episode there was a few times where Dazzler expressed her interest in Scott. So I like that we get a bit of a callback to that here, cause to me it's things like that that make this series feel more cohesive. So of course right here Scott's just like yeah, so we're gonna tie up these criminals and get you back to the concert. Like he's mad uncomfortable right now. But before they can get to any of that, next they're met by the arrival of Dr. Valerie Cooper, UN liaison on Mutant Affairs, who at first has the X-Men thinking she's there for them, but after introducing herself to Scott, she lets him know that she's an old friend of Charles Xavier, and she's actually here to back up President Kelly, who's very serious about taking a more sympathetic stance towards mutants, since prior to this, the government has been inconsistent, to put it modestly. But as her team's taking away some of these guys from the Friends of Humanity, we're shown that one of her men is with them too, and for a moment, Wolverine recognizes his scent, though he's not able to pin down where he remembers it from. And later on, when they get back to the X-Mansion, Jean tells Scott that she'd like to speak with him in private. And at first he's like, is this about Dazzler? I swear ain't nothing going on. And Jean tells him no. But then Scott tells her, if it's not an emergency, then he'd rather it wait so he can debrief the mission with Beast, since Hank has more experience when it comes to working with the government. But it's one of those things where we know that she has some significant news that she wants to tell him. But following this, we head over to Storm and Jubilee, who are both ready to head out to the Xavier Memorial Concert where Dazzler's performing. And it's here where Storm reveals her new hairstyle, while telling Jubilee that not only did she want to fit the vibe for a Dazzler concert, but also with them heading into a new millennium, she wanted to try a new look. And needless to say, Jubilee absolutely loves it. So after this, they go to check on Hank, who's working on Bishop's time travel device, which isn't quite showing the excellent progress that he mentioned earlier, but it's one of those things where he's working on technology from the future. So to figure it out, he's got to use a whole lot of trial and error. And for a moment, it has Bishop like, man, I'm about to make it to the future the old-fashioned way, one day at a time. And then Bishop turns to the side and he notices Storm's new hairdo, and he's like, you looking good. But just after this, they decide to leave Hank alone so he can focus, and as they do, they run into Jean, who at the moment is looking for Scott, since Scott mentioned earlier he was going to talk to Hank. So with Storm noticing that something's weighing heavy on Jean, she gives Bishop her concert ticket, which from here has Bishop going with Jubilee to the concert, as Storm follows Jean so they can talk alone. And when she does, Jean tells her how it's tough sometimes when Scott gets so fixated on the mission, he just makes their relationship and future an afterthought, and Storm's able to empathize on both ends, because she tells Jean with the professor gone, Scott's taking that burden on his shoulders, and the reason that he's focused is so that they can have a future. So Storm tells her that she's just got to remind Scott of what he's fighting for, which just makes for a very nice sister-to-sister moment here. But when we head over to Scott, we find him setting the parameters for the Danger Room so that Wolverine can redo his training from earlier, but Wolverine's just like, bump that. He'd rather train the real way. And he even goes on to tell Scott that they don't need to be friends or even respect each other, but if Scott expects the X-Men to follow him, then they need to know that he's got his head on straight, and more or less prove that he's not losing it while trying to fill in for Charles. So Scott steps down because he knows that Logan just wants a piece of him, so he takes the opportunity to really just blow off some steam. And while that's going on, for a brief moment we see Hank talking to Dr. Moira McTaggart about Bishop's chronal travel device, which has me thinking it's likely she'll come back at some point in the series. But later on, when we head over to the Charles Xavier Memorial Concert with Jubilee, Bishop, Rogue, and Gambit, out of nowhere, Dazzler's attacked by the Nasty Boys. And you can tell early on that this attack really wasn't thought through, because off the bat Ruckus attacks her with sound, which only feeds into her power set because she converts sound into light. But right away Gambit and Rogue hop in to help Dazzler out, and it isn't too long before they end up chasing off the Nasty Boys. But when Rogue starts to go after them, Dazzler's like, nah, forget that, the show must go on. So she just continues her performance. And following this, we then go back to Scott and Jean, with her finally getting the opportunity to let him know that she's pregnant. And of course, with how this is done, Wolverine, he's not too far away, because everybody eavesdrops in the X-Mansion, and I'm not really sure why, because it always leads to someone getting their feelings hurt. So again, Wolverine, he gets the news here as well, and so he's like, congratulations, because there's certain parts of the heart that the healing factor can't hit. And after seeing this, we then go back over to the Nasty Boys, who are currently just blaming each other for the botched attack, with Vertigo telling Ruckus what he should have done and vice versa. And we end up seeing that they've made their way back over to Sinister, who at this point is just displeased with the idea of them using outdated tactics, since they just figured if they stir up some mutant trouble, then the X-Men will get in trouble too. And Sinister tells them those outdated tactics are for the old world, because the humans have accepted the mutants now as their heroes, and all this has done is make the X-Men look better. So after reprimanding them for a moment here, Sinister lets them know that he blames himself for tolerating them this long, because they're not suited for the next stage of his battle against the X-Men. So he tells them that Jean Grey's with child, and that offspring is the genetic key that he's been after for years. But to get his hands on it, he'll have to undermine the public's newfound love for the X-Men, So to do that, he's calling in for some new help. Which now this has me very curious to see how the timeline plays out as far as when Sinister stepped in and did certain things prior to what's been revealed later on the Disney Plus show. So yeah, I look forward to getting more of that. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.